Let's begin with tax implementation, and the implementation of the new luxury vehicle levy begins tomorrow, August 1, 2018. It follows Parliament's passage of the bill into law to impose additional taxes on vehicles with engine capacities of 3 liters or more. So from now, vehicles with engine capacities from 3.0 to 3.5 liters will attract an annual tax of 1,000 Ghana cedis, and those with 3.6 to 4.0 liters will be required to pay 1,500 cedis annually. And then vehicles with 4.1 liters and above will also be taxed 2,000 Ghana cedis. Though minority MPs describe it as extortion, government explains it will raise 300 million cedis annually to develop the economy. What do you make of this taxation, extortion or goodwill?
Looking at how this government is like they are using ways that we think that is acceptable. We think that they are using the right way to take money from us, you see. But for me to buy a car and you come and tell me that I'm going to pay tax on the car that I've bought for every year, man, I don't think it will be acceptable in the country. Me like this, I've just started life. For me to work, the government will not even give me anything like, oh, I'm supporting you with this amount to buy a car. And later on, you come to me and tell me that you need tax. I don't think it's a good idea.
I personally think it's good because for a country to develop, it's based on taxes, you get me? So if the government is going to put these taxes on luxurious vehicles, and let's just hope this is a good policy and they're not going to squander the money and all, and they're going to use it for development and all that. If it's going to help the citizens of Ghana, I think it's a good thing. Yes, it's going to help with the low income wages citizens, and development is going to go on smoothly and all. Let's just hope the leaders don't spend the money, that's all.
It's a goodwill because looking at what we have now, the Nigerian cars are even more than the number of cars that are being imported annually. And looking at it, you can look at the number of cars that the Nigerians are having. They are having a very heavy vehicles. And I think this will really help the country to move forward. Looking at some areas like SCC, Botiano and the rest, you can actually see that the number of the Nigerian cars that particular area is even more than the cars that are being registered with a Ghanaian number plate. So I think this is a good thing that will help the country. The government should keep it up and then do that. I think if it happens like that, their importation of cars will reduce when it comes to that.
All right, so those are some comments from the streets. A lot more are on Facebook. Let's check them out.
Right, so Kafu says, is this not an overkill? I know that vehicles above a certain engine capacity attract special taxes, levies and penalties at the port. All these are paid before vehicles are cleared. So why the extra taxes again? Anyway, is that not contradictory when it comes to free SHS? Tax the rich for the poor. Then let the rich and the poor enjoy free SHS. Free SHS, funny, isn't it? Yawa Solomon says, so is it the engine capacity that makes a vehicle luxury or the fixtures of the vehicle? And what exactly are people for? Is it luxury vehicles with a set engine capacities or any vehicle with a set engine capacities? I'm confused. So, yes, they're taxing or they're levying vehicles that have an engine capacity beyond 3.0 and beyond. But there are exemptions, so ambulances, commercial vehicles, public transport, and some other vehicles for cargo are exempted. Now, James Abusanga says that is a good move as it will help reduce the cost of cars hijacked by the rich, who can own about 5 cars of high engine capacity simply because they don't pay anything for keeping them. Nanabuama says, Goodwill, small. Let's try the sacrifices and see if only these monies will be put to good use. Okay.
And Kwesi Boateng says, let them pay. After all, they have been dodging traffic and honing on other legitimate road users to give them way. How often do you see fleet of Toyota Corolla running a convoy or making noise? It's only the SUVs, the Formatics, the MLs, and the rest, so let them pay. Sharif Suleiman says, truth be told, the government deserves a pat on the back for the bold step it took on this very tax initiative. The move is very much in line compared with the distribution of wealth in many economies of Africa and Ghana for that matter, where very few have and hot money while the masses wallow in poverty. And this one on WhatsApp, Felix Nobalana says the government's taste for taxes is unimaginable. They will certainly tax the air very soon. And this one from Leonard from Jirapa, he says the government is simply robbing Peter to pay Paul. And talking about Jirapa, Israel, yesterday, Rafiq Salam mentioned it and I was like, huh? Like, seriously?
How did he mention it? It didn't sound like Jirapa.
I don't want to bite my tongue. So he mentioned it in a certain way. And Britain Young says, Ghana will tax your own vehicle and will start to tax your bedroom curtains one day. And this one from Berma Kwabaji from Jinijine, he says, you drive on bad roads, you get an SUV to drive smoothly on the bad roads, and then the government who is supposed to maintain the roads wants to tax you. Those are some comments on WhatsApp. Now, the senior minister, Safo Mafo, has hinted the Bank of Ghana is working to put in place measures to bring down the cost of borrowing. Currently, lending rates are at an average of 27.5% compared to countries like Togo, Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria, who borrow at 4.5 to 5%. What percentage are you expecting government to fix the borrowing rate?
You see, naturally, when interest rates are down, at least it inures to the benefit of everybody. The traders, the importers, and all that. But you see, the rate it's now hovering around 26, 25, thereabouts. And you see, the banks even don't explain certain things to you. They will tell you is this, something, 1%. They will say something is 1%, something. But by the time you get to you take the loan, you realize that the real thing you are paying for it is even more. So I don't even blame whatever Bank of Ghana is even doing. The banks don't educate their customers very well. You see, that's one of the things. But at the close of the day, generally, if interest rates come down, it's like it gives you a lot of money in your pocket because you have some reserve to deal with, to use. But if your deductions, like maybe salary workers, if the deductions are going to be just like so much exorbitant that their salaries will be slashed more or less, even too much, it will take a toll on somebody. So if it comes down to hover around, for me, I would even prefer it to be 10, 12, 13, 15, thereabout.
Oh, reducing interest rates in Ghana is very good. It will help businessmen to borrow at a lower interest rate than the current one, which is at a higher rate. So my expectation is that it should be reduced to at least 18%. 18% will be better.
I think it's a good idea if it's supposed to be uniform, because when we watch movies, when we listen to politics from the outside world, almost everything is uniform. Ghana, almost everyone does what they want to do. Everybody does what they feel like doing. Prices of goods are different from shop A, shop B. So the interest rates across all banks are supposed to be uniformed and then make our lives easier. I think it's better. Probably a 20% or an 80% won't be bad.
Let's get on to Facebook and check what you've been sending.
Anaman Resp says, apart from the free SHS saving with problems, I've never seen anything promised by this government that has been executed. The talking is much, but the action is less. I think this government is more of performing ceremonial functions than the other aspects of governance. Kwesi Boateng says, until a formidable database is formed, it will be very difficult to achieve that. People borrow and at the end they abscond. People borrow and refuse to pay back. With these behaviors, why won't the banks entertain fears and increase their lending rates? Well, Kwesi Boateng, as a result of this, or it is for this reason that government has been talking about the national identification, national ID cards, which will make it really difficult for you to borrow and say you're not going to pay. In Desiree, someone says, Jesus, see Togo, them shaking my head, losing hope as a Ghanaian. The Yeboah Solomon says, if Togo and Nigeria are doing 4.5 to 5%, ours should be 2 to 3%. Well, yeah, there you have a point. I'd like to agree with you. Yao Oheming says 27.5% compared to 5% and 4.5%. That's too huge a gap. How did we get here?
Those are some comments. David Namyala says, expecting nothing but talk show. Adnan Al-Hassan Jambedi says, honestly, these banks and other financial institutions are milking Ghanaians dry. Tell me, if you borrow at a rate of 30%, as some banks do, what business will you possibly do to pay off with interest? Government, as a matter of policy, should reduce to 4.5%. It's creating so much hardships for Ghanaians. And Jerry Rollins says, were they not the same people saying they will not borrow? Okay, so he's not quite getting the question we posed. Government is not talking about what the government is going to borrow. It's talking about you and I, when we go to the bank, the rate at which we borrow. And this is coming from, you didn't add your name, it says the government should institute appropriate measures to track the informal sectors to also pay tax. Okay, so he's still talking about the first issue. And Leonard from Jirapa says the experts should be doing the talking on national policies rather than politicians. And this one, okay, so he says, where are politicians moving us? And finally, from Franklin, from Berima Kwabaji, says, frankly, one thing this government has done pretty well is the reduction in the base rate, but the banks are still adamant regarding reducing their interest rates. Government must force the banks to reduce theirs too. And those are some comments on WhatsApp. And that's how we end the interactive segment. My name is Aisha Ibrahim PMX.